Hello everyone, this is Lori from Grammy's Keepsakes, and we're gonna do some playing. I promised a couple people a while ago that I would show you how I make these book covers, and this one is all ready to go. It just needs a book block, and this one, lint on it. And so I have a couple others ready to go. And so this cover is going to be for this design here. And I just used modeling paste on a Reader's Digest book. And then I glued on some strips so I get ridges. And this one, if you don't have the modeling paste, and with everybody shut in right now, if you have cardstock and a die cutting machine, these are heavy-duty cardstock die cuts that I glued onto the book cover that is gutted. I reinforced it with Tyvek and put my little strips on, and we're going to go ahead and cover this, but I want to show you how what type of fabric I use and how I get to that part. So my fabric is going to be an inch larger than each side, and my top and bottom right now are bigger than what I do need, but that's okay. And then I just mixed up some paint, and right now it's use what you have. This particular one is teal sea, espresso, and navy is how I got this. And a couple of my other go-tos that I always like to mix my own paint with is suede, and this one is velvet gray. It's a nice dark gray, but it's lighter than black. But if you don't have a gray, use black. And then sometimes adding a drop or two of yellow work great to change the color a little. And purple does wonders in changing colors of paint also. So, and I just stirred it up. I just have a disposable little yogurt cup and stirred it up, and then I just use my paintbrush and make a mess. So this fabric is Kona cotton, which is K-O-N-A, and it's a heavy duty or high quality quilting cotton, and I like to use a high quality or heavier because I do some sanding and I don't want to go through the fibers. But just go ahead and paint. If you don't have a heavy quality cotton, go ahead and you can use muslin or even a lighter cotton or a broadcloth. And who said it had to be cotton even? If you've got, a woven polyester, I wouldn't use a knit. That doesn't, I don't think that would work at all. But you want to get as close to the edges as you can, unless your piece of fabric is a lot larger than what you need, then you can trim it off. But I'm not too fussy if it doesn't go all the way to the edge. I just want to make sure that it's good on the front, back, and edges, because we're going to do some trimming anyway. So we just want to paint, and then I'll put it aside and we'll work on one of my dried ones so that we don't have to watch paint dry. For my greens, I mix up a lot of different colors to get the dark green that's not too bright. I like to mix black in it and gray, brown, and then a little dried part of paint in there. So this is really good to use up your paints, especially those that are getting old and they're going to get real thick and gummy if you don't use them up. So if you don't have the exact color you need, that's okay. Just make your own color. If you are going to make more than one book of the same color though, make sure that you mix enough paint to do both books, because I don't know if you'll be able to get the same color more than once, because it always seems to turn out a little different. So I'm just trying to get close to my margins here. I know that on these two sides it was really tight, and I've got enough paint so I can go ahead and just dab it onto the edge. The top and bottom were wide, so I'm going to trim those so I don't need to go so close, because we want to use up our old stock, but we don't want to waste it at the same time. Okay, it's starting to look pretty good. And I do like it to have a shading look, so it does not need to be pure. It can have all kinds of strokes and stuff in it. That makes it fun. So I'm going to go ahead and stop there and put the paint aside. I'm going to lift this up, and you can see how it does go to the other side of the, even with this heavy cotton. But I'm going to go ahead and put it over to the side so it can dry. Alright, so that is over and drying, and now I've got going to bring my project, but I don't want that wet paint. And I like to use this Awesome. You get it at the Dollar Tree, and that cleans everything off of your mat. The alcohol inks, the distress paints, glue, everything. It just melts it. So I'm just going to give it a quick wipe down. Because we don't want blue on my green cover. Okay. Excuse me. So here I have a dried green one. That's what it looks like on the wrong side. That's kind of cool too, isn't it? But we're going to use this side. And get my book. See how much larger it is? It is quite a bit. But I'm really not going to trim it down until I've got it glued onto here. And to do that, where did I set it? I know, I've got such a mess. I mix tacky glue and water, and I do 3 parts to 2 parts. 3 parts tacky glue, 2 parts water, and then I just keep it in this baby food jar. And go ahead and move that And I'm just going to go ahead and paint glue all over this. And don't be neat. That's not fun. Be messy. It's tacky glue. It'll clean up. And make sure you get it generous around all the little cracks and crevices of your die cuts or your modeling paste. Okay, and I like to do the front first. And I kind of do it in stages into 3 parts: the front, the spine, and the back. Okay, making sure that glue everywhere. And just kind of scrubbing it in along the edges because I want the fabric to stick. Okay. Now I'm going to lift this up and a little bit of glue there. Put this face down and my book cover. Watching where I place it. Press. And a lot of pressing going on here. I like to use my Teflon bone folder a lot. And you can start to see some ridges. But so that you know exactly where to poke in your fabrics, here's my trick. I use a sanding block. And you can get these anywhere. Or just use sandpaper, make your own block. But this is what I do to find my place. There's my pattern. You get to have a little fun. But that's why I like to use this nice heavy-duty fabric. And now you can see where your pattern is, and you can get in there and poke and cram it in there. Just burnish it like crazy. A little bit of sandpaper is like a miracle, isn't it? And it's getting the edges really nice. And we'll work on this one a little bit. And these particular die cuts are Tim Holtz, one of his wildflowers. Well, actually, I think it's from 2 different sets. I've got 2 sets of his wildflowers. And it really doesn't matter what you cut them out of. You know, as long as it's nice and thick. If you wanted to cut out cereal box cardboard with it, you'd probably have to run it through your die cutter a couple of times to get it to cut. But hey, why not? this particular cardstock is 110 pound, so it's really a stiff, thick. And I think I've seen recipes of making your own modeling paste also, so you can Google that, and if you don't have any, you can make your own if you prefer to use your stencils and modeling paste. But use what you have. Okay, and then I'm going to make sure I go in that groove. And let's apply some more glue. Generously, making sure I get in there where I didn't have any glue. And you can make your own book covers. I usually do, but right now I'm using what I have. And I do have a lot of chipboard. I can make my own, and I've got hardboard, and I can cut my own. But I've got all these books that I have purchased, so perfect time to use them up. And if your glue wants to seep through, just go ahead and wipe it off right away. And again with the sandpaper. So now we can see where they are. We can get in there and just go ahead and poke. Get it in there on the edges. And get in that groove. And now we want to glue the back. And get in there next to that fold. And so we'll get that wiped up first. Okay, looking pretty good. Now I'm going to go ahead and close the cover and press it down. And let's go ahead and sand some on here too. Give it a nice distressed look. It looks so nice and old, doesn't it? Okay. I'm going to go ahead and cover up my glue. I always make sure I wipe the lid so that when I go to put the cover on it, I can get it off again, so it doesn't glue shut. Okay, now I'm going to take my ruler, and I usually use a pencil, but I'm going to use a pen so you can see what I'm doing. And I'm marking 3/4 of an inch, and I'm just making a line. That's going to be my cutting line. Again, doesn't have to be perfect. And you can use your rotary cutter, a craft knife. I'm going to go ahead and just use scissors. And then just follow the line. It gets to be much more manageable now. And these are all of our scraps, and they're quite stiff from the paint on this nice beautiful cotton, but I'm going to throw them away. And then I'm going to use my little corner tool that I got from Claudia at Colorway Arts on Etsy. I love this corner tool. It fits right, your book fits right in there, and it has the perfect measurement so that your book cover itself does not show through when you cut the fabric and cover a book. And now we're going to go ahead and cut on those lines on all 4 corners. And it's probably 1/8 of an inch, I'm guessing. The width is just over the thickness of the book board. And you want to be careful so you don't cut it too short, because then your book board is going to show, and that's not a pretty picture. And then we're going to train the folds just like I do when I'm covering with cardstock. Just telling the fabric where to go. And now I'm going to go ahead and use 3-in-1 glue. You could use Fabri-Tac, Fabri-Fix, and I'm just applying in little circles on the long edge of the fabric. And then I want to go ahead and go against the book edge also, because I want it to stick. Go ahead and fold it up and over. And now start in the center, press it forward, get it in there nice and tight. And work it out to your edges. Make sure it's down very well. And now we're going to do this side. And lift it up and over. I'm using gravity as my friend to help me. I'm really picky about how my books look when I cover them. And a little extra care with the technique here, I feel, is important. But everybody do it your own way. I'm just sharing the way I do it. And now we're going to go ahead and do this edge. Now what I want to do first is get in here in that corner, glue, and a little bit all the way along the book, and go ahead and get it in there, and then we can do our circles here. Now I'm going to take my point of my bone folder and bring that corner in, and same with this one. Bring the corner in, and then I want to just kind of hold it for a couple of seconds till it catches, because that is covering the edge of my book cover. Okay, now we can go ahead and bring the fabric over and walk it to the edge. And then this is how my little book corners, my dirty fingers, how they look then. See how they're completely covered. Now let's do this one. We're going to go ahead and put our glue in our corners, walk it along the side, glue in the corner, and our little circles. And then we can use your bone folder to push that in, or go ahead and use your fingernails. And I don't have much fingernails, but the little bit I have, I can get in there and just kind of poke it in there. And I want to hold it so that it holds just enough to get it to stick. Not to dry, just to stick. And then go ahead and bring it over and walk it down. Excuse me. Okay, so here's my new corner. Glue all over me. And if you get any glue stuck, you can use your adhesive eraser and hit it to kind of take some of that away. Because I got gluey fingers and painty fingers, and the glue reactivates that paint, so that's why I get messy, very messy. Okay, so here we have our book. And now this is when we can have some more fun with our sandpaper. You don't want to be too rough because you don't want to go through the fabric. But to give it a little distress look, and I like to give it a little extra, you know, where you're going to hold your book all the time, like it's worn over the years. And now it is ready to go. It just has to dry, and then you can put your book plate in it, cover your end papers or your book plate, your text block, and then your end papers, and you have a journal. It feels soft and luscious. It, with that sanding on the fabric after the paint is dried, it really makes the fabric feel loved and worn. So it is recommended. I love it. It adds a really nice touch to your journals. So I want to thank you very much for watching, and I hope you give this a try and have some fun. Have a creative day.